I was in World War II, fella, and I served for years. I know what it's about. What a Cuban doing?
I have a son that's going to go into the Army.
We fight because we must fight. If we're to live in a world where every country can shape its own destiny.
Vietnam is not our war. We must say no.
We will not be defeated.
You have to stand on that principle, and if it's necessary to die on the principle,
we today have concluded an agreement to end the war and bring peace with honor in Vietnam.
We hope that peace will come swiftly, but that is in the hands of others. And we must be prepared for a long, continued conflict.
The U.S. victory over the North Vietnamese in the Nha Drang Valley, measured by a kill ratio of 12 to 1, convinces U.S. commanders to implement a new strategy: search and destroy. The plan is brutally simple. Search out the enemy in South Vietnam and then destroy them in numbers so high they will no longer be able to continue fighting. For the first time in modern U.S. military history, victory in war will be measured not by territory taken, but by body count. But as U.S. and South Vietnamese forces battle through the vast countryside and winding rivers, they quickly discover that the enemy has a plan of their own. The Viet Cong have meticulously planted tens of thousands of mines and booby traps. They have dug hundreds of miles of tunnels to move soldiers and weapons and launch surprise attacks. And perhaps worst of all, they hide in plain sight, indistinguishable from the 17 million civilians. If they are to win the war, U.S. leaders realize they need an enormous number of boots on the ground. 1966 becomes the year of escalation.
When we graduated, one of the commencement speakers quoted President Kennedy, saying we should ask not what our country can do for us, but ask what we can do for our country. Well, the more I hear about Vietnam, the more I think I'm finally starting to understand what those words mean.
In San Bernardino, California, Barry Romo is feeling the effects of the growing war.
And this sort of led me to thinking about,
well, if I believe in the war, then I have to actually join the military and go and fight. Really put my principles into action. When I told my father I was going to enlist, he said, I don't want you to go. And I said, well, you served. He said, but your brother and I went to war to fight people who were putting other human beings in ovens. All you're going to do is go fight some poor farmer that doesn't want to be bothered with you, and I don't want you to die.
but he doesn't know what he's talking about. We're in Vietnam to save those farmers from the communists. That's what this war is about. Everybody knows that, and everybody's behind it. So I tell him, sorry, Pops. Regardless of what you think, I'm enlisting in the Army. And I'm volunteering to go to Vietnam.
As Romo undergoes his 12 months of training, he has no idea what Vietnam will really be like. No more than 28-year-old Charles Brown has, even after serving 8 years in the peacetime army.
A few months ago, I didn't even know any of these men existed. Now headed into combat together, and we're gonna have to depend on each other to survive. Well, back when I was at Fort Benning training up young men that was going
to Vietnam, one of my favorite slogans was, I'm gonna go to Vietnam. I'm gonna kill some Viet Cong. Ha! Well, this take effect on you. Remember now, I've been drilled for a good 8 years with nothing but talking about combat. Not that I wanted to experience, but it had become a way of life. There's certain things you do and how you do it. And actually combat is the only way this is going to be tested.
Brown is now second in command to a platoon of 30 men with the 173rd Airborne Brigade sweeping through Tay Ninh province, a known Viet Cong stronghold.
A lot of my guys are from places like New York and Chicago. Boys have barely been out the city, let alone been out in the middle of a jungle like this. No matter how much training they got, Vietnam, it's a whole different world to them.
Summer daytime temperatures average over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, while a 100% humidity is like being in a steam bath 24/7. The men must cut their way through 8-foot-tall, razor-sharp elephant grass and bamboo covered in thick, thorny vines. But this is only part of the problem. The countryside is also infested with thousands of poisonous insects and snakes, including one of the deadliest in the world, known as the two-step snake, for the number of steps a bite victim can take before dropping dead. Brown and his men must navigate this treacherous terrain under the constant threat of ambushes and booby traps, looking for any signs of the elusive Viet Cong.
3730. My first round will be 170.
A couple of hooches up ahead. I tell my radio man to call back to camp and tell him we're gonna search it fast for nightfall.
1481,
Keep going.
A couple of my guys start bitching, want to know why the hell we can't just skip it. But I tell them this is a job, so they better buckle down and get it done.
As Brown and his men enter the area, they quickly realize it's an abandoned Viet Cong encampment. The VC have a sophisticated network of scouts and sympathizers who alert them to the Americans' presence, allowing them to choose when and where they want to fight. The best the Americans can do now is destroy any hidden enemy weapons or supplies they can find.
I always tell these guys you gotta go slow. You gotta take your time, go through these things. But none of them listen to me. All they want to do is get done and get back to camp. This one guy, he thinks he's been out here so long he knows everything there is to know. So what does he do? Instead of him going down into the rice slowly
to see if anything was in it, he tilt the rice, immediately seeing what we would call a pressure release booby trap.
The booby trap blasts Brown and 2 of his men with shrapnel. Within minutes, a medevac chopper is en route to take them to one of the 18 military hospitals in Vietnam.
The emergency call indicated that there are 3 injured, wounded GIs. We're on our way flying above what has to be considered insecure, hostile territory.
Hold on.